I told her.
Is today your birthday?
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday.
It's supposed to be a kept secret, but nothing's secret anymore.
We ready?
Yeah, knock on this door.
Not free time.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
That's the
this is
wrong
the-
song. I'm sorry, Dick was
Yes,
singing.
good evening, everyone. This is the Grand Traverse County Resource Management Administration Committee meeting of the whole. Today is Wednesday, April 10th, 2013. It's a little after 7 p.m. And if you have a cell phone, please put it on vibrate or silent for us tonight. We will now move on to the opening ceremonies of the commission, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Rennie, if you could lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll have the clerk call the roll for attendance, please.
Lathrop?
Let's put him as excused for now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's excused. He had to go down for some training.
Okay.
Maxbauer?
Here.
Lemkool?
Here.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Rennie?
Here.
Inman?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Next item is the approval of the March 13th, 2013 minutes.
So move. Support.
Moved by Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock to approve the March 13th, 2013 RMA committee minutes as presented in your packet. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We will now move on to public comment. If the clerk could read the general guidelines for public comment, please.
Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, those are the general guidelines for public comment. I just want to let the members know that are attending here, this is your time for the first public comment. We also have a second public comment towards the latter part of the meeting. If you're here for a particular agenda item and wish to speak during that time it's being presented, just let me know, and then I will call on you after the presentation of the information. So you need to get my attention or the clerk's attention on that. So with that explanation, does any member of the public here wish to make the first public comment in our agenda? If you do, please come on up. State your name and address for us, please. Lisa?
Lisa Leedy, 125 Morgan Street. I'm the village president of Fife Lake, and I would just like to let you all know that I would hope that you would look at the Lansing State Journal tomorrow. Fife Lake has won a contest of the best in the lake in the state of Michigan, and there'll be a write-up on that in tomorrow's paper. And again, if you have not been to Fife Lake, we invite you to come, and we'll show you around. It's a great place. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at this time? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment, and we will move on to the approval of the agenda. Anybody have any changes? All right.
Motion to approve the agenda is provided.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Maxbauer to approve the agenda as presented. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We have an agenda. Next order is special order of business, and that's when we have guests that wish to do presentations to the Board of Commissioners, and we're real pleased tonight and honored to have Beta here to present their business model. Presentation by Tom Menzel and staff. We have a packet of information that was given to us with our packet of information. And Tom and your staff, whoever you'd like, if you can get yourself introduced to the members of the public, come on up. Speak into the microphone if you can. And if you need assistance on we have a screen, actually, that we can turn on to view the PowerPoint.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, all right,
They had
good.
them all on earlier.
All right,
Set
good.
it up here
All
for
right.
him.
Well, we start?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Chairman Inman, and good evening to you and your fellow commissioners and staff. Thank you for the opportunity for giving us some time tonight. Before I get started, I did want to take the opportunity to thank all of you for the resolution passed regarding the Suttons Bay issue that was sent to the FTA, the Federal Transit Authority, and we really appreciate that support and help in that issue, so thank you for that. You all did get packets, as you indicated, and in those was the mission statement and the vision, the value, and the timeline of the things that we've been working on and accomplished over the past few years, and also that very detailed study is basically what we've built our business model on. So if you really wanted to dig down for any specifics, certainly that would be in that document. What we've been working on is reinventing public transit, basically using private sector management principles and systems. We're going to talk about creating the vision tonight and some of the things that drove that, some of the structural changes we made, some of the financial issues, and then we're going to talk about the model itself and some of the changes and what we think the outcomes will be, and then, of course, looking ahead to the future. The vision for a new direction is based on establishing a culture of accountability. We've worked on that through the management team in terms of focusing on the specific projects as we've gone through the change process. We've worked on putting accountability into our labor agreements, and we've also put accountability in the actual ridership itself by letting people know that riding public transit is not a God-given right, it's a privilege, and you have to act certain ways. We've developed good policies, and we've held everyone accountable all the way through the system. So that's one of the big changes that we've made. We've worked on promoting collaborative partnerships. Suttons Bay is a prime example of that. We've also worked with the library in terms of eBay and having that opportunities. Festivals, we worked on picking up the Cherry Festival and the Film Festival this year. And of course, we've worked with other transits, Benzie being the first one to develop more of a regional approach to better utilization of resources. We do feel that public transit is a key component to economic growth, but also a key component for a healthy community model, and that's what we've based our vision on. We also are concerned about the environment. We've been working with looking into natural gas buses. We have hybrid buses. We also have a green building, as you can see there, and when we've done the outfitting and revisitation of our existing infrastructures, it's all been geared around that kind of environmentally sensitive opportunity for us. Also, we've tried to provide services that fit with residents' lifestyles. We understand we have two communities, year-round residents, and then we have this massive influx of people in the summer. So we work very hard with, for example, TART Trails. They work with us in terms of developing more opportunities for people to put bikes on our buses so that for domestic tranquility, when someone goes with their wife to Suttons Bay and she says, "I'm not driving back," we can get on the bus. It's like the GPS system has saved a lot of marriages, I'm sure. In addition, we did change our structure and culture. We started at the top of the organization. You may have remembered that Beta 2008 had lost around $357,000 and had a $400,000 debt. We started at the top of the organization, redid all the job descriptions, redid the organizational chart, redid the competency packages based on comparisons to what was being paid for similar skill sets in the private sector. We found that most of our positions were $7,000 to $12,000 overpaid, so we made the adjustments on that. We consolidated the dispatch, and just by those top of the chart changes, we made $157,000 in 2009, so it was a $500,000 turn just by restructuring the organization at the top. Also, we've had an innovative precedent labor agreement. It gets back to the accountability. Arbitration was put in, so loser pays in arbitration. When I first got there, I think I had 3 arbitrations, five grievances, and 3 mediations, and we haven't had any in a couple of years. But what it did was it put responsibility and accountability in, so the union certainly can still move forward on arbitration, but if it isn't justified, they lose. At the same time, we make sure that we're implementing the contract correctly on our end, and if we don't do that, we pay. So it's put accountability in, and that's helped a lot. We developed a formula that we base compensation on the ability of the organization to pay. Traditionally, there is the 1 to 2, 3% that goes on each year, and oftentimes you pay 3% at the top end and lay people off at the bottom. Our thought was that we're a service delivery business. We don't make widgets. It's important that we keep everybody working to deliver the service. So we developed a formula that is too detailed to go into, but the result is that each year after our audit, we look where we are financially based on the formula, and we can either go up 5% or down 5%, but it's based on the organization's ability to pay, not longer-term agreements that you may not be able to fulfill. We've been able to give people raises of between 2.2 and 2.6 each year. It's worked very well. In addition, we've dealt with the paid time off, the unfunded liability issue. We've lowered that from 250 to 200 hours, but we've required people now to use the paid time off up front so that you don't build up long-term liabilities and have a problem at the end of a person's career. We also have a 5-year labor agreement, and we also were able to have them give up seniority rights in terms of callbacks. Now, I don't want that to be positioned as a win-lose. I think that these young managers developed a level of trust and showed the competency to the union people that they felt we were in the right direction, so it made those labor negotiations a lot easier. So it really was a win-win for both of us. It gave us the managerial flexibility to drive the organization in the right direction. And so I think it's more of a collaborative partnership between the union and ourselves. Implementing in the new culture, we revisited all the core competencies and all the positions. We've empowered people to make decisions. They have the responsibility, but they also have the authority to do that. So I delegate down a lot, but they've proven to be very, very good at that, but they're held accountable. So we've put systems like performance bonus plans beyond the baseline compensation, so if someone is innovative and creative, they can get additional compensation, but you don't end up having someone after 20 years making $80,000 and no longer being creative or caring. So those have worked very well, and I'm real pleased with the amount of support we've gotten in that. One of my reasons for being here tonight is I want you to meet some of these other bright young people that are going to be the future of Beta after the old guys leave. Basically, I grab onto their coattails and hang on and see where they take me. But one of the most quiet people we have, but the most powerful, is the next person who's going to talk to you, Matt Powis, because he is our Director of Finance, which means he controls the purse string. So, Matt, you're on.
Great introduction, Tom.
Everybody knows you're powerful now.
I'm going to try to make this as quick and sweet as possible so we can get into some of the other exciting things that we have to tell you tonight. But in 2008, the financial state of Beta was pretty bleak, and we had about 1 day of operating revenue covered through our cash reserves. We were operating at about $55 per hour. And through some of the cost savings programs that Tom was speaking to, we've been able to increase our cash reserves to 99 days of operating revenue, of operating expenses as of fiscal year 2012. And we also lowered our cost per hour to $44 per hour. So roughly about a 20% savings in cost that we were able to obtain through a lot of these cost savings programs. We also have a fully funded pension plan, 119% funded as of 2011, a real rarity in today's day and age. In 2008, we had, Tom said, $400,000 of long-term debt. And through a lot of these cost savings programs, we were able to pay that debt off in 2011. And we always talk about you can only cut costs for so long before you have to start looking at increasing your revenue. And we started looking at ways to increase our revenue, and one of those ways was through the reduced fare program. And what that program does is It puts accountability back into our riders to pay the correct fare. You know, the business practice at the time was an individual would get on the bus and tell the driver that they qualify for the reduced fare. The driver had no way to determine if they did or they did not, so they would get the reduced fare. So we put a program into place where people who actually do qualify for the program would apply for it, show that they qualify, and get presented a reduced fare card. When they would board the bus, they would show the driver the reduced fare card and they would get the reduced fare. Individuals who did not qualify for that would be required to pay the full fare. And what that did was put $6,000 into our bottom line on a monthly basis of increased revenue. Really, it cost us nothing to do it, just the time and effort to put that program into place, and on an annual basis put $72,000 into our bottom line. So a lot of the building structures to change over our business model. At the same time we were going through this turnaround, we knew we had an infrastructure that was crumbling around us. We had an aging fleet. We had a building that was falling apart. Tom will tell you the story of his first day. He had 3 buckets catching water that was coming through the roof. So the whole structure was crumbling around us. And through our efforts of pursuing grants to pay for some of this infrastructure, we were able to obtain $4.3 million that we were able to put into our infrastructure with new buses, mobile data terminals, a new website, electronic fare boxes that will be coming this summer, and also the renovation that you see at our Cass Road facility. So what that did was put $1.4 million into our net asset value on our financial statements. And the final pillar that we had was trying to solidify our local revenue to be able to move this new business model forward. And we were able to do that through the approval of our millage in 2011 at a 75% approval rate, and that put $2.3 million of revenue into our system. So all great things that allow us to move forward and move our new business model forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly Yarrow. She's our Director of Operations and Human Resources, and she's going to talk about meeting our community needs. Thank you.
Okay. So in your packets, as Tom had mentioned, you all have a copy of the Transit Service and Coordination Study. That was adopted by our board in January of 2012 and really set the foundation for our strategic plan going forward, especially from an operational perspective. And when it came to implementing it, we really had to look at how we were going to tackle this large animal, and we broke it into 3 phases. Phase 1 is what aspect of the new business model is rolling out May 6th. That phase really increases the frequency of our fixed routes and changes the way that we move people in and out of Traverse City from the outlying areas. We believe that by increasing our fixed routes, we will be giving people more opportunities. We've added 2 village connectors, so we now travel to Interlaken and Williamsburg. And we are looking forward to the increased capability of those routes. So in doing so, we have saved or anticipate a savings of 55,000 miles per year. And with that, we've been able to reallocate those resources to areas where we were getting requests for additional services, specifically evenings and weekends. And those service expansions have been given to our fixed routes. So that includes those village connectors as well as our chariot system in town here. So we're really excited about the changes, and we've got more exciting stuff that Carrie's going to talk about on the look and feel of Beta and how that's changing. And I'll pass it over to Carrie to talk about that.
Is this one on? Oh, look at that.
You can switch seats with
That's
you.
okay. No big deal. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is the look and feel of Beta. It's funny, we were joking that if I didn't stand, no one would be able to see me, so I hope you can all see me.
We didn't want Beta to just be a pretty face and slap some new logos up in 2009. So all of the work that Kelly was referring to is really the nuts and bolts and really the guts of this project. I got to do a lot of the fun stuff, which was rebranding and those types of things and figure out how we were going to use these buses in a different way. So I held lots of focus groups over the last couple of years, and we talked about what it would take to get people on the buses and why they didn't currently ride when we live in such an environmentally sensitive area. We had a lot of people asking and saying they wanted to, but they were unable to get on. Part of that was because we were really hard to do business with. All the things that I heard were that it's not friendly, I don't know if I can get home, I'm not sure how to access the bus, I don't know what I'm looking for, those kind of things. So what we decided to do was divide the fleet into two to make it a little more intuitive. So in every new thing that we do with branding, there's an acronym we use, which is FIRST, which is friendly, intuitive, reliable, safe, and trustworthy. And ironically enough, those are the things that people said we were not currently. So that's what we look at every time we put something new forward. So in dividing the fleet, what we decided to do, that anything that is a dial-a-ride-based system. So if you have to pick up the phone and call dispatch to get a ride, that's going to be a Link bus from now on. So you'll see the bright blue Link, and you'll know exactly what that bus is servicing. The other would be the Loop bus, and that would be anything that's a fixed route. So for us right now, those are Village Connectors and Chariots. So that should ease anxiety for people standing at stops. We got a lot of phone calls from passengers saying, I'm standing at the stop, I'm at a Chariot stop in town, a bus went by, is that my bus? And the dispatchers, because they're all white, can't necessarily answer that. So this should reduce that anxiety. If you are standing at a fixed route stop and you see a blue bus pull by, you're going to know it's not yours. You don't have to call dispatch, you don't have to get alarmed, you don't have to leave the stop, all of those types of things. So we're hoping to be more friendly in that aspect. As Tom talked about adding value to the community, we took on quite a few things in the last year. One of them was partnerships with the different festivals. For Cherry Festival, we did just under 5,000 rides, and for Film Festival, we did 8,000. So we were real excited about that, and the feedback from the city, people actually using them. It alleviated congestion downtown and some of the parking issues. A lot of people during Cherry Festival are displaced with their parking passes. This allowed them places to actually park and ride into work. So I think that that was well perceived by the community. We've also done a program, I guess, with the Traverse Area District Library, where you can download books onto your smartphone at both of our transfer stations and actually read while you're going out. So we had quite a few people last summer, because we've had it in now close to a year, come down to our transfer station at Hall Street, download a book, get on the bus, go out to Northport, sit at the beach or whatever, and people were very excited about that. The library actually has 100,000 titles that are free because they're out of copyright, so that's pretty exciting for them. And
Can I just add one thing before you go to the last one? 80% of those people that rode during the festivals had never been on public transit in Traverse City, Michigan before. And they got on clean buses on time with friendly drivers. So it was a real successful program, which we'll be doing again.
yeah, we were really excited about the turnout. I told Tom we'd probably have 14 people. He didn't think that was funny. 5 and 8,000 was a lot better. So the last thing with adding community value is, I'm sure you've all seen the changes at our Cass Road facility. It got a facelift and a new tower to bring it into alignment with Hall Street. We've also made some changes to the inside, and we would like to share that with the community. So we are hosting a business after hours on June 19th and hope that you can all make it. So chance to tour the building and see some of the things that we've done in the front, and then also that make it energy efficient. Okay, so you heard Matt talking about the $4.3 million in federal grants, federal and state grants. These were some of the things that we were actually able to do with them. The first thing was new right-size vehicles. Since 2009, we have 47 new buses in our fleet. Those vehicles, all but 11 of them, are equipped with cameras. And then security cameras, which help us with training and being able to kind of supervise what's going on if there's an issue. So, and that's been very helpful for us. Public transit tends to be a little bit of a bullseye when it comes to lawsuits, and it's really helped us keep that under control. So that's very exciting to us. Let's see, we also got new dispatch software. Our old system was very antiquated. You couldn't pull any information out of it. It just wasn't really doing the job for us. So we did get new dispatch software. And then on top of that, all of our buses now have mobile data terminals, which means that dispatch does the calls. They send them out to the bus. It comes up on the computer. The driver is actually able to complete them right there on the screen and take all the information about the rider, so it really makes us paperless on the bus. Also, inside those little computers, there are GPS chips, so on a big screen, we can actually tell now where all of our buses are at any time during the day and make sure that we are doing the most efficient routing. We also use it for training with dispatch. And we'll be able to use it on our website. So I don't know if any of you have been to our website, but it's very old. It's probably the first one ever designed. And we are launching a new one very soon. The idea is to be able to get on the website either on a computer or on your smartphone and get all live route information from those mobile data terminals. And that's probably another 7 or 8 months out to actually have live feed, but the website itself will launch very soon and has, you can see a little picture of it up there, also has a trip finder on it where you can put where you are and where you're going, and it will give you the closest fixed route bus stops. We're going to integrate that with TART as well for people on bikes. So
I would just build on that is a lot of what we're doing is to not only enhance the value for the existing customer base, but really we're trying to grow the business. And the things that we have talked about here are going to attract a demographic profile that didn't consider us a viable option in the future. But, you know, now young people that put up their smartphone, they'll be able to find out when the bus is going, where the routes are, all that, and that just puts us into the 20th century.
Which will be nice, yes. It also gives us a lot of information that we didn't have before, so we can actually look at routes and decide if they're profitable or not, or if they're breaking even, or what we need to change right now. We don't know who's getting on at which stops and so on. So that's brand new information to us. The mobile data terminals have only been up and running with us for about 30 days at full capacity, so we're really excited about what that can do for us and our ability to make decisions on routes.
Just a point on the information. The critical nature of the information that we receive really is what we do with it. So we eventually are going to be going into a performance improvement process, but I see the ability of getting accurate information and then enhancing our advertising sales by website, shelters, and the wrapping of the buses. So when we have exact numbers, we can develop an advertising plan or option for businesses, and then they can say, well, this is the best one based on the route usage over here. We'd like to use this advertising and stuff like that. The advertising on our buses went from 3,000, just on the wraps, went from 3,000 to 81,000. So I think there's a tremendous potential out there, and the intent, though it's not often done in the public sector, is we are dependent on taxes and federal and state. The more things that we can do to generate revenue in a creative fashion lessens our dependency on the swings and the ups and downs that you have to live with in the public sector.
Yeah, and the last thing with new equipment is electronic fare boxes. They are coming for us. We are hoping to deploy them in August. We already have a contract and ready to move forward in August with that once our new business model is complete. So what that will do is allow people different options to ride the bus. We'll have smart cards. You'll be able to load them. You'll actually be able to load them on our website. So we are really going to jump into this century with technology this year and allow people a little more flexibility in riding the bus. A lot of people say, well, I don't have cash on me, or they have to carry those silly little punch cards and they make a mess. So it's just really not a good system now, but it should be in the future. So
we think that an example of the benefit of that is we could be working with the college, and with the swipe card at the end of each semester, they just have the cards, and then they expire at the end of the semester, and they can swipe them and use the system anywhere they want.
Yeah.
And we've submitted a proposal last year to the college for additional service connecting all the campuses, and hopefully that will come to fruition sometime in the future.
Yeah. Also, we have an army of people counting cash boxes right now, and so that will go away as well because it'll all be automated. So, okay, and my last slide is going into more into detail into improving the rider experience is information. So currently, if you walk up to a bus stop, it just says Chariot. And it doesn't have a schedule, it doesn't have a color, it doesn't have anything, it doesn't have a route number. You just kind of have to guess as to which bus is yours. And so we are going to be fixing that this summer. You'll start to see these signs going out very soon after the May launch. So what these do is it tells you on the top the type of service. So obviously this would be a fixed route because it says loop. We'll tell you the route number and the actual stop. Also on each sign will be a small map on the bottom. It'll tell you where you are on the bus route, so it'll have a route of the bus route or a map of the bus route, tell you exactly where you are, and then it will also have a QR code on it. So by the end of the year, you'll be able to scan that QR code, and it will take you right to our website on that individual route, and you'll be able to see the bus moving on the route, whether or not it's on time. So that's where we're headed with those. So a big jump forward for us.
Yeah, one last thing to cover with is we've invested heavily in all of our people, not just the management people, in development of a number of skills, but also our drivers and dispatchers, mechanics as well. So we've developed a customer service course, and what makes this interesting is it was developed by the Beta employees. We had an instructional designer that we hired to do the course, but all of the data gathering and all the information, so there was a strong pride of authorship in this course from the front end. And it's different in that it's very skills-based. Oftentimes you'll go to the courses where they will tell you what to do, and then you go back Monday doing the same thing wrong you did on Friday because there wasn't any skills in it. So we not only are telling them what to do in terms of service, but what to do and how to do it in terms of skills. So it's very skills-based. It's an instructor-independent course, so any one of you could give the course and be the same kind of course as compared to an instructor-dependent course where it's dependent on the facilitator. So the learning methodology is very participatory, and it's on Beta transit situations. And it develops a common service vocabulary. The important thing about it is that it's giving them skills at the point of sale, which is critically important in terms of the impact on the customer. It's gained a lot of traction. The Michigan Public Transit Association executive director went through, and he's going to try to get it to all of the transit members in his association. But Kirk Steidel of Michigan Department of Transportation has seen it, is aware of it, and he's quite enthralled with it and is trying to get federal funding to make it a mandatory course throughout the state. The interesting thing about it is that we also have a validation tool. Because it's skills-based, you can measure skill retention, and then you can measure the return on investment as to whether your people are working using it. So, and it's not just a one-day training experience. It goes throughout the year with 4 follow-up modules where you come back in 3-hour sessions, review the skills, but also review how they're working inside the organization. So a little longer process, but you get out of it what you put into it. And so the first response has been very, very positive. Everyone has been through it, the Beta Board of Directors and all the way down through the organization. And so everyone has got a commitment and a buy-in to this. And of course the intent is that we want to work towards a seamless, and everyone treats everyone with respect inside the organization and outside the organization. And we constantly are telling people, if you have a Beta shirt on and you go to Myers, how you treat that checkout clerk is a reflection on Beta. So we're constantly positioning that as something that's very important to our organization. The last one, as Carrie alluded to, is the driving force, and the question we ask is, we never thought of the customer before, and now we're thinking of anything that we do, how does it impact the customer? And so in terms of building our new brand, that's part of the vision. Is it friendly, intuitive, reliable, safe, and trustworthy? And that's the process we go through when we do initiatives, and we do reduce fare programs and things like that. We understand that change is very, very difficult. So we try to give people as much information as we can so that they understand the process, and then that lessens some of the anxiety. So, and we are in an organization of continuous change and improvement. That's part of the culture we want to develop, is that they're used to change, used to looking at doing things differently. And I say, well, if you look at FIRST, when the other transit agencies catch up to us, we'd better not be standing still. We'd better be on the next one, and they can catch up to us again. So thank you very, very much for the opportunity, and we appreciate your time and your support over the past. And if there are any questions that any of us can answer, by all means, we'd be happy to try and do that.
Okay, board members, Commissioner Max Bauer.
A couple of questions. Well, first of all, I want to say you've put together an unbelievable team. What a wonderful combination.
Yeah.
You know, your grant writing, your human resources, your finance, I think it's fabulous. As a customer, I have two questions. One is, what are your hours going to be extended to? Because you and I have had this conversation where I've said, you know, I would take the bus, but I can't get home.
Yeah.
So I ride my bicycle, which is actually better for me. But so what are your hours going to be? And that's one question. The other one I have for you is regarding the Suttons Bay issue and busing students. Mm-hmm. You know, I have heard from Suttons Bay residents, from parents who say they really like their children riding Beta. Number one, it avoids the problem when they're 16 going, Mom and Dad, I want a car. Number two, it gets them used to taking public transit so that when they go off to college, they will use public transit. I mean, and there are generally adults on the bus as well as kids, and that provides them with a safety factor as well, along with your cameras. So I've heard from friends of mine who live in the area that they are extremely disappointed with government interfering with what works.
It just worked too well.
My question is, are there any portions of that route in Suttons Bay that you can keep? Because as I understand it, it's just the adjustments that you made that are unacceptable.
I think I can answer that, Commissioner Max Barber. It's 9 o'clock, right? We're going to be going till 9.
The fixed routes in town, so the city loops will be extended until 9 o'clock Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock on Saturdays, and then we've added Sunday service.
And we've added the weekend routes. There's 3 each day in the weekends, which we didn't have before.
To the 5 villages.
You need to be on the microphone.
I can hear you, Kelly, but no one else can.
Okay. So, the 5 village loops now have Saturday and Sunday service that run 3 times each day. So we'll have outbounds at 9:30, 1:30, and 5:30, and then the return so 10:30, 2:30, and 7:30, something like that.
And I must mention, the credit goes to these bright young people who restructured these by reallocating assets without adding any cost on top of it. It's just a reallocation of assets to make them more efficient, more effective, and meet community needs better. And then, thank you, Kelly. And then to your point, the Suttons Bay issue, we haven't given up on that, and the support, as you were kind enough to give us as an organization, has been overwhelming. I think the Leelanau board is going to follow as well. We've had the Chamber of Commerce send a letter to the FTA. I had the TARP, the Realtor Group, today is going to do that. Senator Walker and Representative Schmidt, and so I mean, and Congressman Benedict have all made contact with the FTA. So I think that the situation was that they didn't have all the information, and one, they weren't aware that there was such a strong, such a large minority group with an at-risk population. So what we have decided to do is, and we're working on that now, is really look at their complaint and see what we can do to adjust the current model to meet their needs, and also link it into the new structure that we have coming into play, which I think will take care of some of that. And I plan on going down and talking to them one-on-one with this model and try to get their pride of authorship. And then if we can get some commonality on it, then I'll come back and put it in a letter after that. But I think that from what we're seeing with the signage issues and the connectivity issues, we can meet those needs and those issues. We've got to go back to them with a model that addresses some of their concerns, because they've painted themselves in a corner and they have to save face. So we're willing to do that, and I think that with that approach, as compared to adversarial, going to court and fighting it, which just polarizes it, it needs to be done in a more logical fashion. So knowing that there's a large population impacted by it in a rural area, which they didn't know before, I'm trying to shift it from being an adversarial relationship to one of a solution for them, so we can jointly problem solve out of this and move forward. And I'm hopeful. I think that will work.
Okay, anyone else on the commission? Commissioner Lemkool.
Yeah, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the Grand Vision Transportation Committee that meets and how you're working with other transportation agencies in our 5-county area. If you could cover that just a little bit.
Well, we're working with Benzie in terms of the fixed route that we set up. I can tell you that the structure and technology we shared with you tonight allows us to link and connect larger groups. So we're preparing the organization from a structure and foundation perspective to do that. But in those sessions with other transit agencies, we talk about how we connect, how we can have consistent fare policies, how we can link. And basically what we're attempting to do, and it didn't really come out, but we're looking at park and rides. Interlochen was one. Benzie feeds into that. They used to come into town and go to dialysis. Now they will stop and feed into an existing system that has more options and fixed routes. In Acme, it will be a Kalkaska and Antrim. And so they'll be able to save time and money. They can stop at that border and turn around and go back. But we really didn't have a system that made it conducive to work with us, because we were 40% fixed, 60% dial-a-ride. So we've shifted that to more of an 85% fixed route and 15% on the dial-a-ride service. So that will allow us to, and we're talking to Acme and looking at finding a place where we could have a transfer station indoors and a park and ride. You have something you want to add?
Currently, Antrim and Kalkaska, they have not started yet. I still have to go out and meet with them to iron out a few details, but that would be Turtle Creek as a transfer point. Turtle Creek's been really great partner for us, and they're going to allow us to use their employee park and ride to do that. So, and then Cadillac I meet with tomorrow. And we're hoping to transfer with them at Menards. So those are the plans we've got.
Also, Acme Township is looking at building a new township hall, so we've talked to them. So we're in a competitive situation as to who we go with. Yeah. But the intent is to have park and rides and transfer points, so these systems can feed into that. And that's what we talk about in the group that you alluded to, as to how we connect, how we link, how we work, how we have consistent fare policy, so you don't have to work through that. And I would say, Commissioner Lemkool can correct me, but I think most of the transit agencies work pretty well together and are willing to do that.
And the Grand Vision has allowed us, to really push some of our agendas forward and get the word out, and so we do appreciate that.
It fits nicely into the long-term plan of the Grand Vision, though when we went through this change process, that wasn't the driving force to do that. We were going to do all of this anyway, but it's nice to align itself with a vision that takes the community out longer, and it does that.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the county commission have a question? Anyone from the public? You'll have to come up and address the commission, and if we need an answer from Beta, we'll call upon them.
Okay.
Lisa Leedy, Village President of Fife Lake. 616 Bate Street. I congratulate Beta on all the positive things that they're bringing forward because I think there's a lot of really good changes that they've outlined in this presentation. I think that's going to be great for a lot of riders. Unfortunately, I think we might fall in that 15%. We in Fife Lake have informally been told by riders on March 26th that our fixed route service for Beta will be discontinued in early May. This was confirmed after Beta spokespeople confirmed this at some of the public meetings I've attended in the last week or so. We are going to go from 5 stops of fixed route service to 0. They are having dial-a-ride available to our residents, but this is supposed to take effect on May 6th. The change was based on the study that they referred to, not necessarily rider numbers. I think it's a great effort to improve their efficiencies and things that they're doing. But I am asking you, the County Commission, and the Beta people to push back the adoption date for any schedule modifications for at least our area until their staff can lay out for us in writing, in a presentation, in something for the Fife Lake community leaders and community members, some sort of plan so we know exactly how it's going to look to Fife Lake and to give the community an opportunity to assess how this is going to impact our riders. Since Beta is the recipient of federal and state funding, I understand that they have a lot of mandatory reporting, it's lengthy, it's involved. But they also receive tax money at the local level through 2 counties. We happen to be a taxpayer in that tax base. Communication with the citizens and leaders in its taxing district is a must to ensure a positive, trusting relationship with the voters for future support. I'm asking Beta to include everyone in the taxing district, not just Fife Lake, but everyone in the communications and discussions relating to changes which affect our citizens. If a change is necessary, bring us in on the plan before it's finalized. If it truly better serves our people, we will jump right on board with you or right on the bus. If a plan needs adjustment, we can do so at a joint meeting to work out a compromise. On behalf of Fife Lake, I'm asking our citizens receive equal service to the others in the taxing district, and I'm asking for commissioner support in that effort. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll consider that public comment based on our rules, and Beta doesn't necessarily have to respond. It's not a period of back and forth dialogue, but you're welcome to respond to the inquiry.
Okay.
Well, I'll start in that I'm not going to delay it, that's for sure, because I would get into what I find to be a commonality up here is analysis paralysis, and I'm not going to do that. We've put plenty of time into this, but what I will tell you is we need to get this started, and nothing is cast in stone. If we're customer focused and we're concerned about people, we will reevaluate it on a regular basis, and if we find there's a reason to reevaluate what we're doing from a route perspective, we'll do that. We did inform Fife Lake, and I think it was a group of people who were...
Well, it's prior to Lisa being in office.
It was prior to these people being in office, and then and we are going to be meeting on the 25th of April.
We are.
Well.
So when we started with the Velocity Schroeder plan, we spent almost a year gathering information, and townships were a part of those. And so we did take input from everyone, but as you all know, when you're doing a study or a survey, it takes a long time to actually come to fruition, if it ever does. And so we're actually at that point now, but we're about 2.5 years out from when we started the original plan. And so we did talk to all the townships at that time. Part of the issue in Fife Lake is that we did remove a shelter late last fall, and in Fife Lake, and at that time we did talk to the village president and the village supervisor about removing that, and that there were going to be some changes to Fife Lake. So I apologize, Lisa, that you didn't know some of those things, but we are going out on the 25th out to Fife Lake to give a presentation, and we're about to release some press releases talking about community input days, and we plan to have 3 of them.
That would be
so we are the one on the 25th would be, yes. I can't physically visit 27 townships or something. So we are visiting the ones that are directly affected. There are a few. Fife Lake is one of them. The information on, or the the decision on Fife Lake with Felicity Schroeder's study was based on ridership, and that we could use those buses in a better manner by using the Dial-A-Ride to take them into Kingsley, because the ridership in Fife Lake wasn't enough to sustain that jog out there. So those riders still will have service. It's just going to look a little bit different than it does now.
They will use the Dial-A-Ride to feed into the system, and it'll be a system that they'll have more options, more frequent options. So they'll just have to call ahead, get into the Dial-A-Ride system, but then we'll feed them into the system, which we're putting in place, and then they'll have, you know, far more stops and far more options than they ever had before. Again, I can appreciate the concern, and we're not saying that that's not important, but we will reevaluate this within 6 months to a year if we find out, and we'll have much better information then, that there's something that we should be doing in a certain area. We certainly are going to listen to that. You know, we work for the public, and we're sensitive to that. And but you know, you've got to get it started, and then you have to if there are glitches in there, you fix them. Now, we've worked awfully hard to make sure that there are a minimal amount of glitches. It took 3 years to get the organization up to a point that we could even do this, otherwise it would have imploded. And we've put a lot of thought into it. We've had numerous focus groups that have come to the fore for this. So we didn't take it lightly. It wasn't a dictatorial, say, this is what we think is going to work. We spent a lot of time getting as much information, but there comes a point where you got to say, we're not going to get any more information, find anything new. Now we've got to lay out the plan and get it in place, and that's where we are.
Just to clarify, the meeting is at Fife Lake Township on
On the
the 25th of April?
25th.
Yep. Yeah, but
And I believe we have another joint one set up. I don't know that date off the top of my head.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And then we have 3 community meetings that'll be at Hall Street
those are all the townships
that we'll release in a
invited.
press release, and I will also be inviting every township.
And please feel free to call us, too.
All right, great.
And we'll meet one-on-one with you as well. You know.
All right. Good, thank you.
Good.
All right, seeing
Great.
no
Good
other
report.
comments?
Good report. Thank
Yeah,
you.
excellent report. Thanks for coming in this evening.
Thank you for listening to us. We appreciate it.
Okay, we will move on to the consent calendar. If the clerk could read the consent calendar, please.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, received and filed, or approval is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. 1, Conservation District Monthly Report. 2, Resource Recovery Manager's Report. 3, Resource Recovery Department 2012 Solid Waste Report. 4, Road Commission Report. 5, TC Talus Report, January, February. 6, Community Corrections Report and Letter of Resignation, Retirement, Greg Summers. 7, Commission on Aging Monthly Report. 8, Veterans Report and Minutes. 9, Grand Traverse Community Collaborative Minutes and 211 Information. 10, 2012 Annual Report for Planning and Development. 11, Grand Traverse Next Michigan Development Corporation Update. 12, Letter of Resignation for Melissa Fournier, Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Professional. B, Approval. 1, Appointment to Jury Board. 2, 2003 Hauler License.
Okay, the clerk has read the consent calendar for members of the public and those watching TV. These are items that can be approved with one action by the committee in terms of a preliminary recommendation that would go to our board meeting at the end of the month on Wednesday, last Wednesday of the month. Does any member of the public wish to pull any items on the consent calendar for further discussion? Seeing none, does any member of the county commission wish to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Thomas,
Support.
seconded by Commissioner Wheelock to approve the consent calendar as read. Roll call vote, please.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Lemkool.
Yes.
Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas.
Yep.
Rennie.
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Consent calendar is approved. Moving on to items removed from the consent calendar, there were none. We will now move on to department action items. The first item is under District Court. April 24th Specialty Court Open House announcement. I know I got an email from their representative, and I indicated that I would be available for that meeting. Any questions or any additions on top of that we need to talk about? Yes.
I could just throw out that this is kind of a collaboration with District Court regarding National County Government Month, and the theme of National County Government Month, as sponsored by the National Association of Counties, is Smart Justice, and they are going to be holding an open house on Wednesday, April 24th at 7:45 a.m., and they're going to be talking a lot about their specialty courts. Sobriety Court meets at 8:30 and at 3:30. Mental Health Court meets at 2:30, and Domestic Violence meets at 10 a.m.
What time is the open house at, David?
Pardon me?
What time is the open house?
The open
7
house
o'clock.
starts at 7:30 in the morning with
7:30.
coffee and bagels in the multipurpose room.
So it runs
And
all
there's
day.
and then there's a presentation on each one.
Right.
Okay. All right, any questions on that? I would like to thank the court for doing that. We will move on to the construction code. We have a proposal to combine the appeals board on page 71. Who wishes to take that item on?
Bruce is here.
Bruce?
Maybe you might
Or
talk about it.
Dave or Bruce, anyone want to talk about this?
Bruce, you coming up for this?
We have to wake him first.
You can get yourself introduced.
That's
Great.
nice.
Sorry.
Bruce Ramey, Director of the Grand Traverse County Construction Code Office.
Evening?
Good evening. I think there was a letter in your packet that we're
Yes.
trying to combine. We have two separate appeals boards. One is the inspection appeals boards, which here appeals for electrical, plumbing, and mechanical codes. The other board is the Construction Board of Appeals, which hears appeals for the building code, soil erosion, environmental health, and the fire code. We're asking to combine the two boards. It's to make it easier. It really doesn't make sense to have 14 people when you can do it in 7. So that's what we're asking to do, is to combine the two boards to one.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas.
Beside, well, I'm on both of them, and we haven't had a thing in almost a year. It's been quite a while.
Right. Construction code, the last one was in 2011, and the mechanical was last year.
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
So is part of the, and then we'll go to Commissioner Wallach, is, just clarification, is the recommendation to
Combined.
you're going to combine them into one, so they'll hear all of those areas. Would all the members from each board still be combined into that one board? Is that what you're suggesting, or is
No,
it,
we can't have less than 3 or more than 7.
So we
but
need to-
a few of those board members have their term has expired.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Wheelock?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize the combination of the Appeals Board of Building Codes and the Appeals Board that handles the fire and health issues.
I'll support that.
Okay. All right, and I want to come back maybe with a second motion to clarify how we're going to handle the appointments on that. Discussion, Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I guess one thing is that, from a little bit that I know about it, which is probably more than some, but most of the time, if we have a project that has to have appeals, it has to apply for both anyway.
Yes.
So rarely, if we have any sort of a major project that needs an appeals, or has an appeal, they're going to have to appeal to both boards anyway, so we might as well do it in one hearing.
Okay, Commissioner Max Bauer.
I was reading Chris's memo, and I support it going from 2 boards to 1, but Chris, you're saying that the best route here is to adopt an ordinance?
Yeah.
Do you want us to do that now in this
We have to have a
motion?
public
No,
hearing to do it.
you'd have to have a public hearing. We're just seeking direction on which way do you want to do it. I've given you the 2 options, is to adopt 2 resolutions, one rescinding prior resolutions, and then another resolution adopting a new board.
Okay,
Or direction at the other route, which is to adopt an ordinance, which is probably the cleanest way to handle this.
all right.
Any other discussion? I'm on the motion.
It's a good idea.
All right. Everybody understand the motion? All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just have clarification, just so I'm clear as to what I need to do next, is it preparing an ordinance and bringing it back to the board?
Can we have that clarified in the motion?
That's fine.
Okay.
If that's the cleanest way to deal with it, is to do it as a new ordinance, I have no problem
Okay.
with that.
The second agree? Everybody understand the motion on the floor?
We also have to establish a public hearing on this?
Well,
Yeah.
not till the ordinance, until we see the draft of the ordinance.
Yeah,
Once you draft the ordinance, then we start a public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So it's
This is
going to
just
take a
giving
little bit of
direction.
a time to
All right.
make this happen, but.
Dave, you have something?
Is there anything that, time sensitive on all this? I mean, do you need this done soon?
As soon as possible, yes.
An ordinance is going to take a lot longer than a couple resolutions.
That is true. That is true.
Well, there's nothing that says that they can't still be a body until the ordinance is passed.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
except they
we
don't
still
have
have
membership.
enough members to hold the appeal, but, and some expire on 2014 and 2015, so we do have enough people on the board. But we
Okay.
just,
Yeah, because this is going to take at least 60 days, if not 90.
All right, any other discussion on the motion? Everybody understand the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Now, could we get a clarification motion on how we might want to give direction in terms of appointments? We have
Chairman, I believe-
two
I believe
that have
some of those
expired right
pieces-
now?
Some of those positions were left open at the end of 2012, if I remember right.
All right,
yes.
Because we had talked about this prior to the beginning of the
so
year.
does that leave you the number of individuals still serving
Yes,
to be compliant with the law?
yes.
And then they have terms coming up?
Right.
Okay, all right, we're all set.
The ones that expired in 2012, we haven't attempted to have them reappointed because we wanted to combine boards.
All right, are they still serving?
Yes.
So do we have to notify them that their terms have ended?
Well, they haven't ended yet.
Well,
Well, they
They're going
ended in
to.
012.
There's only one board member that ended in 2012.
And that's the one that you want renewed, or is that the one that's going to be excluded?
I'd have to talk to Chris about how, if we combine the two boards, how do we reappoint the members?
why don't
Do
we-
we disband the board and then?
All right, okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have the two of you meet and then bring back recommendation to the next RMA about how we might want to handle the appointment process going
there
forward?
is a makeup requirement of the board.
All right, okay. Is that fine? Sure. Everybody agree with that? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce,
Okay,
Bruce,
mo-
before you leave, I have something I want to show you. Go ahead, I'll meet you out there.
moving on to Central Dispatch. Jamel, come on up. Get yourself introduced.
See any
Staffing
flashing
plan
lights, I hear the wambulance coming. Wham, wham, wham.
Here's right here. Only didn't plug
I know where
in.
you live, you know.
I know you know where I live.
Jamel Anderson, Grand Traverse 911 Director, and I'm here to request an adjustment to our staffing plan. If you read the agenda item, it was, I think, in 2007, I had come before the board and asked to implement call taker positions, hoping to alleviate some of the staffing issues we have with getting people successfully through training. And we wanted to use those as a stepping stone position, hoping that if people were able to learn a portion of the job and become more familiar with it, then they would be more successful in moving on to a dispatch position. And it didn't turn out that way. We had a couple great call takers that were not going to move into being dispatchers. So we've had one of those people retire, and I'm requesting to to remove a call taker position and replace it with a dispatch position, because the dispatch position is more beneficial to us overall.
Okay. Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize the change in the staffing plan for discussion purposes anyway, from the call taker to the dispatch.
Okay, is there a second? Sure. Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. We'll go to Wheelock and then Max Bauer.
You know, obviously, there's a financial consideration of this. Are we covered in your budget? Because I think you're short of personnel anyway, correct?
Yes.
As always.
Yeah,
You know.
it's about $2,500 a year, so it's not a huge amount, and yeah.
You know, I think we all genuinely hoped that the call taker thing was going to work for us, and because of the trouble we have in getting dispatchers in-house. But unfortunately, it just never really came to fruition and worked very well.
They've been beneficial in some ways, but it didn't work the way that it was intended, and because of that,
You know, with our center and with our call levels, it just didn't work.
Commissioner Maxbauer.
Jamel, I just wanted to say I appreciate the fact that you tried something different.
I'll keep trying.
You know, hey, it didn't work, but I appreciate the fact that you just experimented and to see if there's a better way. There wasn't, so oh well.
And call
I just
takers
haven't
have
found it
worked.
yet.
Call takers have worked in other communities. They
Yes.
just didn't fit here.
If we were a regional call center, it'd probably work better.
It may have, and in some places it does work, but it didn't work the way that it intended, and so it wasn't as
Okay.
beneficial to us.
Any other discussion on the motion? We have a motion on the floor to move forward with the staff recommendation, take a call taker to a dispatch position. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Thank you,
I have
Janelle.
another question, and
Sure.
on the same thought process. When we have candidates that make it through the application process and they're viable candidates, and we have 2 positions open, but maybe we have 6 candidates, I would like to discuss being able to hire more people than we have in our staffing plan. And we discussed this before when we went to temporary employees in the hopes that that might make a difference, but the overall opinion of that was that it was changing the pool of people who were applying for the job, because not many really wanted to apply for a temporary, they wanted a full-time position, so we changed that back. But having changed that back, I need to come back and ask for authorization, or how you feel about allowing us to overhire, so to speak. A good example recently is we hired 4 dispatchers. 2 of them are still in training, 2 did not make it. We had 6 viable candidates out of that group that we had gone through. One of them we were able to bring in. The other one had already accepted a job at an adjoining county. So we've never had everyone make it through training. I'd like an opportunity to hire an extra person or 2, depending on the qualified people that we have and the openings that we have, with the anticipation that we're gonna have people drop out along the way, and then we don't have to go back and run into these situations.
Since this is not on the agenda, is there a sense of urgency that the board address this now or
No,
at a future meeting?
Right, to think about it, and I just wanted to bring it up. I should have put it on the agenda item.
And we probably need some, like, turnover data and stuff like that would be
There's
helpful.
lots of that. Yeah.
And maybe a recommendation from the Central Dispatch Board.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have, we've discussed it at Central Board, and we will again, but I'd like you to think about it, and I will bring back some data for you.
All right.
And we can talk about it during budget.
Commissioner Thomas.
I'd likely be in favor of it, but I'd like to see a proposal.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, not a
Well,
problem.
I think there's 2 factors. One, we have to talk about what it affects our budget. And secondly, we need to look at what it does with our union contracts.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Those 2 factors are both going to enter into the discussion.
I don't think the budget is going to have a big impact on it because of our lack of full staffing all the
fully
time.
staffed.
However, there are considerations, what if this, what if that? So I will bring it back and give you some data on it. I just wanted to kind of put a bug in your ear. And also remind you that next week's National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week, the 14th through the 20th, so be nice to the dispatcher, Sonny.
Commissioner Lemko.
I'm not so sure this isn't an administration situation, that rather than you coming to the commissioners and talking about that it ought to go through Dave's office to talk about what his
did.
recommendations.
She did.
And you're bringing it back to us?
She didn't like my answer.
I don't know about that
Jamel,
part.
you've gotten everything you've asked for.
I have? I better start asking for some more stuff.
No, you shouldn't. So,
Well,
Windows took a while.
in this last situation, it was frustrating that we
Yeah.
had gone through that entire process. We had a candidate, we had,
Oh.
and, so it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes it would make sense, but we'll talk about it later.
All right, thank
Okay.
you. Thanks for coming tonight.
I'm glad I got to see the beta presentation. That was
Hey,
good.
it was interesting.
Yes, it was.
Okay, that concludes Central Dispatch. We'll move on to Planning and Development. John, are you up next? Get yourself introduced.
Good evening, John Syke, Planning and Development Director for Grand Traverse County. What I have presenting for you tonight is it actually comes from the Grand Traverse Next Michigan Development Corporation. And in 2011, the county, along with the city, Blair Township, Garfield Township, and East Bay Township entered into an interlocal agreement to create the corporation, which was a designation from the state of Michigan. We're one of 5 within the state, and these are economic development entities which are focused on assisting businesses that ship out their goods, multimodal commerce, meaning that they ship out using 2 or more modes of transportation. Our main focus is on our road system and our airport. The Next Michigan designation comes with a set of tools, and one of the set of tools that I want to talk about this evening is the Renaissance zones. These are provided through state statutes for the Next Michigan Development Corporation, and there's some limitations in terms of the number of them, in terms of where they can, the areas that they can be identified and so forth. And the first step in doing this, the Next Michigan Board went through, is identifying some potential locations for these Renaissance zones. Renaissance zones are basically tax-free zones. They're provided as an incentive for businesses. If you recall, most recently there was one in Acme Township in terms of the agricultural processing REN zone that was done for shoreline fruit. This is very similar, except these are designated for those eligible businesses under Next Michigan. We see this really as a kind of a tool in the toolbox, but it's an added aspect of marketing for economic development in our community, but we really see the application of these being relatively limited because they are pretty severe in terms of providing that tax-free status on these. They are limited, they would be limited for a certain period of time and so forth, but we would really see that it would have to be a very exceptional project that would warrant these. The step involved in identifying these zones, the first one is to actually identify where they're located, and that's why I'm here tonight, because we identified a few locations around the county. The approval for these locations will also have to go in front of the local units of government, so the townships and the city commission will also be receiving presentations and resolutions for their consideration. If these are approved, then they go forward to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and in terms of their designation. Now, if they're activated, we'll have to go through somewhat of a similar process if there is an actual application. When this community identified itself in terms of wanting to become a Next Michigan Development Corporation and made application to the Michigan Strategic Fund Board, we were looking at really focusing around activities that really support our airport in terms of cargo exports and imports into the community. So we looked at, and part of that application was to look at our existing industrial parks, because those are areas where they already have a lot of the infrastructure needed for development, and they have the zoning in place, and they're also in relative close proximity to the airport. Now, understandably, these, in some cases, already have buildings on them, but a REN zone could still be applied to an existing building if, for instance, if the building was vacant and a new business were located there, or similar to the shoreline fruit where it was an addition where they were adding on and there was a portion of that. So the idea for the Next Michigan Board was to look back at these basically six main industrial parks. We've combined a couple of them. If I could just go through them quickly here. The Traverse City Airport Industrial Park, or also known as Aero Park, is one location. The Meadowland Industrial Park, which is on 3 Mile, just north of Hammond. The Peninsula Business Park, which is off of 3 Mile, just with the entrance kind of south of Parsons across from the Aero Park. The Garfield Hammond area is really looking at a few different industrial parks, where the Hammond Business Center is, kind of going to the east, and then northwards to the Traverse Field Industrial Park. And then another area is actually within the Cherry Capital Airport. The master plan for the airport identifies an air cargo facility at some point in the future. And this would be a facility where it would be located at the southwest corner of the airport, kind of behind the Bill Marsh dealership there, where it would actually be probably an instance where the airport would lease the land to a private developer, and that facility would allow for the transfer of cargo coming directly from airplanes through that facility and into trucks. That would be an area that is roughly, it's a small area, about 9 acres in terms of what the master plan has identified for the airport. So we wanted to include that. So there's basically 5 different locations. Part of this is that the idea is that the state of Michigan is, in essence, wanting to kind of phase out Renaissance zones. It's not an incentive that is something they want to expand in the future, but they do have these. They want the next Michigan Development Corporations to identify these, to essentially use up the zones for identification purposes and commitments. And there's the other 4 locations are also in the same process in terms of identifying zones. So tonight, what I'm presenting to you is for your consideration is a resolution to essentially approve the designation of these Renaissance zones for those various locations that I just mentioned. Again, this would just be the designation. One of the things that the board for the Grand Traverse Next Michigan Development Corporation has yet to finalize is the actual application process and criteria for the review of any such application. And I can assure you that those are going to be very stringent in terms of how the application process would go. But that would be a separate process if there was an actual consideration of applying these Next Michigan, or excuse me, the Ren Zone tools.
Okay. Commissioner Lemko.
This has gone through the Next Michigan Board, and I think they helped you designate these.
Yes.
So with that in mind, I will make a motion to support the resolution for the Next Michigan Renaissance Zone designation.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Lemko, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock. Commissioner Wheelock.
You know, I have a lot of questions about this process, and you and I have had some discussions about it. You know, I tend to wonder whether it necessarily has to be cargo that we're using by air. You know, we have companies in this town that ship people in and out of that airport every day, you know, and could they qualify under some of these tax abatement issues or tax issues? You know, Haggerty's Insurance comes to mind really fast and real easy. You know, very fast-growing community organization, very active in our community. Possibly they can qualify for some of this. They're using road transportation to conduct their business, and they're using air transportation to conduct their business. I wonder if they can qualify for some of these rights. The biggest concern that I always have with tax abatements, or you know, zero tax, whatever you want to call them, is we tend to forget that they have a limitation. They last 3 years or 5 years, and then they're supposed to go back on the tax roll. Repeatedly, these abatements are left to run on and on and on and on, going and renewed time after time, and it's not the organization that has the ability to do that. Generally, the townships or someone don't have to take input from the county or the school district or anyone else when they continue to grant the extension to the tax abatement. And all of the taxing entities should have an input anytime that these tax abatements are extended. You know, we rarely get much of an input in the first place, and we get none for the renewals.
If I could just respond to that, and the first part, I would agree. It would be nice to be able to also look at the people side of the airport. We are restricted right now based on the statute that it's limited to products shipped out of the area, but we have been in conversation with the other Next Michigan groups, and we've thought about if there's opportunities if we work together to alter the legislation, to go back to the legislature and see if we can make some changes. For instance, we may forego one of the benefits of the Next Michigan. For instance, what if we didn't want to use the REN zones with the idea that we could trade that in and get some type of other benefit, which we would certainly like the whole high-tech part in terms of other services that could be included in this. You know, if we could look at internet and broadband as a way as well, to since we're a community that's not necessarily serviced by, you know, rails and freeways and so forth. So there has been some discussion about looking at the next Michigan legislation and seeing if we can make some changes that better benefit the Traverse City area. The other item regarding the tax abatements, one of the unique things that we feel, at least from the County Planning and Development Department in terms of Next Michigan, in terms of tax abatements, you're right, the local units have that ability to grant those. With Next Michigan, we're now at the table with them, and I think it's our interest in trying to make sure that those are done first and I would say in a very conservative manner, but also that there's some accountability and insurance that those are done and have, you know, serve their purpose, and then they get those properties back on the tax rolls.
Okay. I think you have a follow-up, Commissioner?
Well, just one other comment. We need to remember that this legislation came out of a direct effect where they wanted to create a Renaissance zone around Metro Airport in Detroit. And the legislation came along with the idea, look, you can do that, but you have to make it available for other areas throughout the state. And there was a designation, fortunately for us, that at least one of those had to be north of US 10. And we are the only one north of US 10.
All right, Commissioner Max Bauer.
John, I've got a question about one of your sentences in your memo, and you state, "The state of Michigan reimburses school districts," it's the last sentence in the second paragraph. "The state of Michigan reimburses school districts, community college districts, and public libraries for most of the tax losses resulting from the tax exemption in a Renaissance zone." What does most of the tax losses mean?
Well, actually, I don't know for certain to the detail of what that means. I mean, we know that
What the state says they reimburse the school district doesn't necessarily mean what the school district says they should get.
I understand that. That's why I'm asking the question. I mean, most could be 51%. I mean, it's most. You know, it could be 98%. But I'd like to know what that means.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Any other questions on the motion? All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the proposed resolution for Next Michigan Renaissance Zone. And then, again, this is a preliminary recommendation that will go to the full board at the end of the month on Wednesday, so you can look into Commissioner Max's question and have that ready at the board meeting. That might be helpful. All right, all in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call vote, please.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Rennie?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
No.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes, motion passes. It's 1-nay. Thanks, John. Appreciate you staying tonight. We're going to move on to the prosecutor's office. First item is an item regarding tax appeals and assistance to the city of Traverse City. Chris, did you want to take that item?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, we were approached by the Traverse City City Attorney at the end of last year. Since being approached, I've had telephone conversations with the city attorney. We had a meeting in February with the city attorney and city assessor, and we were asked by the city to assist them with tax appeals. And let me say that it's assistance, it's not taking a lead on these cases. And really, we talked about criteria of when we would assist the city. And that would be, as I've outlined in the memo, when we're dealing with property that has significant value, $500,000 or greater, and where we're dealing with difficult petitioners, difficult attorneys, difficult representatives. And so we wanted to, Bob Cooney and myself thought it was a good idea to assist. Again, the emphasis is on assisting. We expect that the cost in assisting will be minimal, that there may be some filing fees associated with assisting, filing motions and various documents in the tax tribunal, but really the cost isn't that much. And given that we've established this criteria, we're not going to be working on 20, 30, 40, 50, hundreds of these. We're really talking about a handful. Right now, with the city, we're talking 3 cases that we'd be working on. Let me also stress this as well, that eventually we would like to do this not only with the city, but with other townships in the county. We haven't met with any township officials yet, but we would like to in the near future. But to start with, we have been approached by the city, and we would like to work with the city with your blessing. Finally, in closing, I've discussed this matter with Dave Benda. I've discussed it with Jim Baker, Director of Equalization. Everybody's on board with this. Again, there was a concern about costs and meeting certain criteria, and I think we've addressed those concerns. So with that, I did provide you with a proposed resolution. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions on this? Commissioner Wheelock?
Chris, I commend the opportunity. My concern is that we're opening a door here because the townships are in the same situation. And the townships get the minimum amount of tax money from these, and what we find is very regularly it's easier for the townships to stipulate to the appeal than it is to try to fight it.
Right.
And almost all of these appeals that we're seeing anymore are large companies that are appealing both real and personal property.
Right.
All the utility companies are appealing all the personal properties all the way out throughout the state.
Right.
It's just a matter of course, they just appeal all of the personal property assessments that happen. And, I hate to enter into an agreement with the city of Traverse City unless such time as we have had, real serious discussion with at least some of the major townships.
And certainly, Commissioner Wheelock, we can hold off until we have sat down and talked to the townships and see if we can have the same arrangement or a different arrangement and figure out what works best for everybody.
Commissioner Thomas?
If we're going to do it, it should be, if it's going to be with the city, it should be with the townships too.
Right.
Because some of those townships have enormous personal property assessments.
Garfield.
From the power company, from the transmission lines.
Yeah.
Right.
And they appeal every year.
Right.
The townships use their assessment on what it's worth, and then they turn around and appeal it.
Right.
Commissioner?
I would go along with it, as long as it's worded and it says "and townships."
And townships is in.
But if you want to
included in
get the
resolution.
townships on board first, I got no problem waiting.
Yeah.
Commissioner Maxbauer?
I support this. This is an opportunity in my mind for the city and the county to work together. The city has asked for our assistance, and I think that we ought to provide it. We certainly step up to the plate for townships repeatedly. The prosecutor says that he can handle this, and I trust his judgment. I have no problem with moving forward down the line and adding townships to the resolution, but I think we ought to pass this one at least to assist the city with what they've requested.
Okay.
So I'm going to make the motion that the prosecuting attorney be authorized to assist the city of Traverse City and townships in defending appeals filed in the Michigan Tax Tribunal, provided the property that is subject to the appeal has a true case value of $500,000 or more, and provided the particular petitioner or property owner is represented by a difficult or litigious representative or attorney. And please note, I did read city and townships.
I'll support that.
All right, moved by Commissioner Maxbauer, seconded by Commissioner Lemkool to approve the tax appeal assistance to the city of Traverse City. You want and townships in that motion?
It says and townships. It's in there. I read, yes.
Okay, all right.
As suggested by Mr. Cooney.
All right, we got Commissioner Wheelock and then Commissioner Thomas.
Yeah, I did read that it said in townships. I just wanted to make sure that we had a real discussion, that we are in fact going to make our services available to the townships also.
Okay.
And we need to notify the townships of such.
All right, Commissioner Commissioner Thomas.
Then every case that they win is revenue for the county too.
Oh, that's true. That's right.
Can't lose.
Or anything that we can save going downward.
Right.
Okay.
This is probably 3 years too late for some of the stuff that we've had.
Probably.
So we
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Because we don't really know what's in the
Yeah.
pipeline.
Right.
Well, the townships have just over the last, 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
have stipulated to just some horrendous
Oh,
appeals.
yeah.
Because it costs them too much money to go fight it.
And who knows if we fight if we'll win or lose.
See,
Okay, any discussion on the
If you don't
motion?
go to the table.
Hearing none. Let's do a roll call vote on this.
Lemkool,
Who?
You.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I missed it.
Who let go?
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas.
Yep.
Rennie,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Moving on to Building Authority.
No?
Do we have?
Oh, yeah.
No?
yeah. No, go ahead.
Correct?
I'm sorry. I'm
Correct?
sorry. You're correct.
Okay. Building Authority. Just a quick question. Do we already have a set of Building Authority articles of incorporation and bylaws?
Yeah.
This is a change?
Yeah, this is something Bob put together for the board. And I didn't prepare these, but I reviewed them and I've talked to Bob. Bob unfortunately is under the weather right now. But the last time that the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws were looked at were over 30 years ago in 1980. So the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws were in serious need of revision. The main thrust of what Bob has put together for the board is, one, these Articles of Incorporation and bylaws, they're compliant with the state laws, where the 1980 documents in some places were not. Second, they spell out or really change the makeup of the board and how the board is appointed with 2 at-large members, and then the treasurer, administrator / controller, finance director serve as ex officio members. And then there were some other stylistic changes. Again, a lot of the changes are really incorporating the state statutes into the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws. So we are recommending that these be considered and adopted. And with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize the change in the adoption of the new Articles of Incorporation for the Grand Terrace County Building Authority as provided.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Max Bauer to approve the new Articles of Incorporation for the Building Authority. Discussion.
A few months ago, we were provided copies of the old ordinance, and it was interesting to see that, some very old businessmen that I used to know in our community signed this document. I believe Merle Cole had signed, and Bill Van Voris, who was vice president of Traverse City State Bank at the time, had signed. It was interesting to me to read that document, but it was also very apparent that it did not even come close to meeting current regulations and codes.
You didn't see that in the archives in Washington, did you? All right. We have Commissioner Lemkool and then Dave Bender.
My question is do we have to get rid of the old ordinance and then approve this ordinance? Or can we do this ordinance and then eliminate?
You could rescind the old Articles of Incorporation. Basically what Bob did is, instead of inserting changes or amendments, he basically rewrote.
But wouldn't it just supersede it anyway?
Yeah, it would just supersede it anyway, but it doesn't hurt.
Amendment in the whole.
Yeah. Either way, it doesn't hurt to say it's rescinded and adopted and re-adopted, or just to say it's been amended.
Okay.
Yes.
There are a couple of changes that that Chris Kramer and her sharp eyes picked up on. On page 84, about in the middle of section 1, appointed should be appointment. See that? The only Grand Traverse County residents shall be eligible for appointed, should be appointment. And on page 87, in the middle of the page, there's for a period not to exceed 40 with 50 in parentheses. Probably should be 50 in both cases.
Yep.
And on page 90, I don't know that it's necessary to do this, but it might not hurt since this last resolution lasted 50 years.
30 years.
A newspaper of general circulation might want to replace the Traverse City Record Eagle. And now that I'm thinking of it, it might be smart to call it something even more generic than that.
Just one of our main...
Publication?
Whatever our main...
Publication, yes, that
Yeah,
might
whatever
even be
the main
better.
publication.
Publication of,
All right.
because,
Yeah.
you know, who knows how long
So do you have those changes?
print's going to
Yeah.
last. Everybody says.
Bob,
print's dead.
Bob was aware of the typos, and thanks to Chris Kramer for her eagle eye in catching the typos, and we will
Clean those up.
we will clean that up, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. So, just to clarify the motion, Chris, do you want just the motion to stand and it would automatically just supersede the other bylaws, or do you want them to have the motion maker indicate that the prior document would be rescinded?
Now, the first one's fine.
First one's fine, okay. Okay, everybody understand the motion? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Thomas?
Yep.
Rennie?
Yes.
Maxbauer?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Inman?
Yes, motion passes. Now we move on to an item in your agenda, item 3, authorization for civil counsel to file a statement of reason for appeal of the fee to trust determination on parcel 80 on behalf of the Grand Traverse County. You have in your packet a memo from Chris and Bob on page 894, and also sent to you on April 8th. Would have been an attorney-client privilege communication, which would have been a little bit more detail in terms of the background behind the legal rationale that he wanted to communicate with you. Now, I want to just disclose that if the board wishes to go into closed session to talk about this attorney-client privilege communication you had received, and further to discuss the issue with counsel, we can do so, or you can address this issue at this time in open session, if you wish. Commissioner Thomas.
Motion to authorize the civil counsel to prepare and submit a statement of reasons for appeal of the fee to trust determination of the U.S. Secretary of Interior on parcel 80.
Okay. Motion by
This action shall
Thomas.
have
Is there a
immediate
second?
effect.
Support.
Second by Commissioner Wheelock. Is there discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Rennie?
Yes.
Maxbauer?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Inman?
Yes, motion passes. And that, the way the motion stood, it's going to go to the board meeting. All right.
Well, it says to take immediate effect.
I added,
You did say immediate effect?
This action shall
That's
have
what it is.
immediate effect, is the way the resolution is drawn.
that's the way the resolution is, and that's the way I read it.
Does everybody understand that
Yeah.
their vote was for the full ratification of the board at this time? All right, then that clarification will be placed in the minutes. That the motion was a full ratification of the Board of Commissioners. Okay. We will now move on to any other items on the prosecutor's office. You've been busy. Among other
I
things.
think that covers everything.
All right.
It's,
All right. Moving on to administration, we have the administrators / controller report and legislative report. Dave.
Okay.
And by the way, thank you for your administrator's report. We're getting really good comments from the townships I represent in terms of getting that information and keeping them current.
Good. I've got, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to point out that next week, we're going to be seeing the animal control agreement with the Cherryland Humane Society, long awaited. That is ready and coming to you next week. Boardman Dam's got a $357,000 grant, and that is well needed because we've got to get the engineering and design process started on the Boardman Dams, and that is just wonderful. And Department of Natural Resources singled out, well, they didn't single us out, but we were one of a short group of people who got, who was funded through that grant program. Chris already told you about the barbecue and the seniors. Municast, we've gotten the Municast software. Dean has been working in between trying to get the auditors out of here. He got all the actuals and budgetary information loaded into that, and we're starting to play with the 3 to 5 year financial projections. And so we're getting a lot warmer on that now.
Mr. Chairman, just the dams update is on the 25th. I don't know how many of the commissioners have registered to be able to go to that.
To what?
The dams update put on by the Conservation Resource Alliance.
Right. There's two of them. There's two dates. One's
Right.
a Thursday and then the following Monday,
Yeah.
late April.
Just on your, no.
It's going to be over at the CRA offices on
On
Grandview.
72 and 22.
Right. Have you all received information on that? Yeah. Okay, good. There's an update in here on the holding tank and wastewater septic tank issues that we had gotten from the townships. Right. As you can see, we're down to about 11 property owners that we're still trying to contact, but they've really gone through the entire list, and I wanted to make sure you were all up to date on that. We've got a new high-speed connection with Leelanau County that Grand Traverse and Leelanau are now sharing a high-speed line, and we're reciprocating on our secondary PSAP with 911, so that's great news. If theirs goes down or ours goes down, we have dispatchers on the other end of the line. We had a web editor training session, hadn't been done in years, and the last one was done in 2006. And we had good attendance, and as anybody who's been watching our website, it's been developing pretty rapidly, and we're pretty excited about that. We are also providing Wi-Fi access at most county public facilities now, so that if people are in the neighborhood and they need a Wi-Fi signal, they know to get close to a county building, they can get Wi-Fi access. Jason Jones was awarded a Commitment to Excellence Award by the Michigan Parks and Recreation and Park Association, excuse me. Hotel Indigo is going to be having an open house. We're getting moving on that with Brownfields. That's going to be on April 12th from 3 to 6 at the Inside Out Gallery on Garland. And I've got a few other items. I already talked about the specialty court. The jail is overcrowded. I spoke with our jail administrator, spoke with the sheriff on Friday morning, spoke with him again on Monday morning, spoke with the jail administrator on Monday. We had 31 out on Monday. That's $35 a day. That's $930 a day. We don't have budgeted. And
can you rephrase that again for me? You have out what?
We have 31 inmates in other counties now.
Time out.
Yeah.
We have a jailer.
Yeah, you don't know this yet, but the board has a standing resolution that we're not outboarding prisoners.
I'm just informing you
Well,
what I heard from the sheriff.
The court came to the circuit court and district court made an assurance to the board of commissioners that they would get together, review the population, and make the proper releases.
Right.
And they did.
I'm thinking that should be happening now. When I talked with the sheriff and I talked with Mr. Cooney, Mr. Hall, I found out that I know how this process works, and I was sure that there was something like that going on here, and Captain Hall confirmed that was the process, and I said, well, my number one concern is not that we have too many inmates. If they're bad people, You know, I'm sure that's what we need to do, but the judges need the list. And so I informed the sheriff of that, I informed Captain Hall of that. I don't know if the judges have received the list yet, I haven't received any back information from them, but I'm hoping that that process is underway.
And we also have to understand that we closed the Work Relief Center, and that is an option for them to reopen that.
Right, and one of the things that you need to know is that the work release adds to our total design-rated capacity and puts us up at somewhere around 194.
It gives us 26
But we can't
beds.
use those for most of our inmates, and, I think that the ones that would actually be eligible to go into that, to be housed, is about 6 or 7.
Yeah, we'd have to look at how the prisoners classify.
Right.
But we have 26 beds in the Outback, if you will, or
So
the jail
yeah,
release facility.
the Jail Overcrowding Act doesn't kick in until you get over 194, but the reality is, when we're over 158, you're overcrowded.
But you don't want it to kick in either, because then you have to go down to 80% capacity.
Right.
You have to release enough people to get to 80% capacity,
Yeah.
and they'll come in and they'll just tell you, okay, you reduce every sentence in this jail by 20%.
Well, the judges will have a process to go through, but
Yeah, well, we don't want to do that.
Commissioner
I think-
Axelrod has a question on this.
I do. Basically, it's about the resolution. How old is this resolution?
It was back in Dennis's days.
Well, it was
Were we-
when the
after you
jail,
built the
it
new
was
beds?
when the addition was built, so
Okay.
what was that,
Probably
2000?
05, 06,
2006, 2007?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. And the judges did agree that if they got to an extent where it was at that limit, they would come together as a group and evaluate and assess who the inmates were and make an arrangement to release certain people.
I guess my concern is that we not release people that should not be released.
Well, these are people that are like a week left, 3 days left, misdemeanors, nonviolent people.
Or friend of
Those
the
are the people
court.
that are getting let go.
It's up to the judges. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is up, they're the ones that
so.
set
Yeah.
those sentences.
Can we get
Are
a
holding
copy?
people pre-sentence. They're the ones that have to look at the list and make the decision. There's no Judge, Benda or Judge Max Bauer that's going to
Yeah.
make those decisions.
Oh, darn.
It's really the judge. Our judges that put them in there in the first place are going to make those
Can we
decisions.
get a copy of that resolution?
Yeah, as you may or may not remember,
Yeah.
we used the outboarding amount to pay for the expansion of the jail. So
Mm-hmm.
when we expanded the jail, we said, you guys are going to have to work with us, and everybody agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't going to outboard anymore.
Let's get a copy of that resolution and get a copy to the judges and to the sheriff.
I don't think
I think the judges are well
I
aware
don't
of it.
think they need a copy, they just need to get
Well, we'd
together.
need
Well,
a
I think
copy.
we have 2 new commissioners, too, that might
Yeah.
like to see it.
Sure.
Right.
That's true.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know about that. And as far as bell ringing, we've gotten a lot of positive responses from numerous sources. And
Excuse me.
kind of a next step, what do we do from here? If we were to bring forward a proposal that said we're going to open up a trust fund to collect up to $8,000 or whatever the number is that it would take to repair the bell and put it back in service, and just basically then have a public hearing at the board meeting, maybe bring it to Ways and Means as an item, and then have a public hearing at the board meeting where people could come and comment and decide whether they wanted to talk about it. I thought that might be a way to proceed on this.
Works for me.
Okay. And we'll bring something to the next Ways and Means Committee that'll say,
As long as I can't hear it
we'll open
at
up a
my
trust
house.
fund.
So-
Huh?
As long as I can't hear it at my house.
Chris, is that the proper way to set up, is a trust fund to be able to do that, or is another way to be able to pull those monies in to be able to use for just that purpose?
That's a
You don't
Dean
need a
question.
trust account, you just need
I don't think we need to bother Chris with that. We can just set up
Okay.
an account in our trust and agency
Okay,
fund.
all right,
It's a
good,
trust and agency account. Can't be spent on anything but that.
okay.
We just didn't want to be careful about how we title that account, so is that, when, that was the discussion that we
Right.
had, when it came up before, I said, the thing about it is, we need to talk about that account shall be used for,
that purpose.
for the purpose of preserving the historic courthouse, and because otherwise, if we fix the clock, we shouldn't have to fix it again for the next 50 years. But there may be some money there that we may
Maintenance.
want to be able to have another issue
Maintain it.
with the historic courthouse.
All right, and then the last thing is TART has requested to use the money that's been set aside for trail development for the paving of a small area on the Civic Center property that runs from the track. If you can envision, I actually got a picture if I can get it up on the screen up there. It's by the bridge. It's kind of by the school and the bridge and on off the Garfield Road entrance. And there's a little crosswalk and then a dirt trail that goes up in there. They're proposing to pave that. I just wanted to let you know that that's one of those things that they're proposing. And TART has approved it. Parks and Recreation Board has approved it. And I'm just letting you know about it. It's about a $7,500 expense.
Is there a way to get some sort of a long-range plan as to what they're going to use that money for? And a prioritization from them? You know, I mean, it's there, basically, we set it up for their money, but on the same token, if you look at today and you spend it today and you haven't looked down the road, because there's a lot of maintenance things that are going to have to be done, because these trails now are starting to get to the point where they're going to have to be repaved. And so, you know, they keep asking for this money, and if we don't have some sort of a long-range plan from them as to what they would like to spend that money in and how, I know they're working on it, but I think we need to be, as part of that withdrawal of that money, where you're going to put that money, because all of a sudden they're going to come back to us and say, we need another $50,000 to take care of your trails, and they've already sucked money out of there, and now they don't have any. I'm just asking if we can get that.
Who's our rep on TART?
We don't have one.
We discontinued that?
Yep.
All right. But anyway, that's my report.
All right, if you could follow up on the
Dean has
trail
something.
overcrowding thing for us.
Will do.
See if the road commission wants to talk.
Hang on.
Did Dean have something you wanted to add?
We need to, does that conclude your administration report?
Yeah.
All right.
Pardon me?
Does that conclude your administration report?
It does.
All right, now we go on to unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Any new business? All right, second public comment. Does any member of the public wish to speak? And you can also come on up.
Just in case you've forgotten, I'm Lisa Leedy from the Village of Fife Lake. I'm the Fife Lake Village President, 616 Bates Street. And I just want, for clarification's sake, to let you all know that there is an effort in Fife Lake, at least for the past few months, but it's been ongoing for probably almost a year. The township, the DDA, the village, and the chamber have been working together on multiple efforts. One of the efforts that has drawn them together is marketing, but the most recent effort that's drawn everyone together is the beta issue. And I just want you to be clear that the current and the former administration of both the township and the village are working together on the beta issue. And I want it to be known that we have not received any prior notification up until what I've stated. So I just want that to be made clear.
Okay, thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak? Does the road commission like to make a remark?
They're
Road
happy
commission
to
like
have
make a
their
remark?
plows out again today.
I'll make a real brief one.
I can't remember.
I couldn't help it, Carl.
Thank you. Carl Brown, Grand Traverse County Road Commission Chair. Yeah, we weren't real happy with the snow, but hopefully we're nearing the end. I think they're calling for a little more tonight, but we did go through the letting process on Holiday Road, and contract is not awarded yet. They're going through the numbers not yet, but we're hoping for middle of May start on that project. So, so I think the residents out in that area hopefully will be excited to get a road they can drive on. So, anyway, that's it.
Carl, do you know when North Long Lake Road will go out for bid? We're getting close?
End of July, early August.
Yeah, well, the construction's supposed to be August till October, according to letters that I have.
So probably end of July.
I just have an observation comment. You probably already know this, that I just can't remember, you know, as long as I've lived up here, the road being in such a challenging position with just multiple and large potholes that are just accelerated in depth and width. And, you know, we used to talk a little chunk, now we're talking boom, 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 you know, things are that wide, you gotta swerve over and go around and everything, especially in 31 and other roads, that I've just never remembered it being in that bad a shape.
This year is very extreme. And
It's very extreme.
the city too is very extreme, and it must have had something to do with the weather cycle or something, because.
What are you gonna do when it gets 40 degrees in the daytime, goes down to 20s at night? It's gonna pop it right back
It
out.
has just, this time of year to patch them, it's tough, but your comment, Larry, is correct. I just don't remember a year like this either.
And I know it's gonna take that's why I'm bringing it up, it's gonna have to be a terrific effort and expense on your part to go in there and just try to patch that stuff up and for the regular traffic coming in the spring, but we have to, and you weren't, and I don't know if either one of you were here, about 5 years ago, the county and the County Board of Commissioners and Road Commission went out for, I think, a $4 million bond.
Yeah.
And we, within 90 days, I think, paved every primary road.
Right.
And did, we patched it. And
As long as you brought that up, Larry.
You want more money?
My point is.
We would love to do that again.
Yeah, my point is that we both, I think, we finished our bond. I think you have a little bit left to go.
Right, correct.
The life of those roads did not last the bonding period.
Well,
I don't think that's true.
no, I don't think,
that's
no.
not true.
On 31 and all those, and South.
Well, 30, we didn't do 31, that's state,
No.
no.
That's
That
state.
wasn't us.
That's a state
No.
road.
We don't touch
State
state
did
road.
31, but the other roads.
I think and I can pull that data
Yeah.
for you, and we can do the pacer ratings on that. I don't think that's, I'm not gonna say there's not potholes there and that, but
I mean, you look
I
at-
think most of those are still in fairly good shape, Larry.
There's still some significant spider cracking, but they
Absolutely.
are still, they're still gonna score.
Well, take a look at that, because the roads I'm
6 to 7s.
traveling on that are primary roads.
Right.
Are
Those weren't
beat.
part of that project,
They
right?
are beat up. No, they were, like
No,
South
they were
Airport
not.
Road.
No, they were not.
That was not part of
they
it.
were
We
not
did,
part of it.
we did like
South
West
Airport.
Silver Lake.
I'll get,
past-
I will get the list
Okay.
for you, Larry, so you
Junior
can do that. But we also now, we have our
42
crack fill
miles
machines
road.
now, which we didn't have. We've got a lot of other options that we didn't have in the past, even when that project happened, but I'll get you that information.
All right.
But all that money went into Sonny's district anyway.
And mine.
By the way,
Trust me, I heard that part.
Yeah, I did too.
I've got for a cost of a few road signs, you can take care of one road. If you go out here to Potter Road and just change the name to Pothole Road,
That's
all you gotta do.
Extreme, I will agree there.
Commissioner Lempool.
I think it's really, this is time to really make a note that this is what happens when you don't spend money on your roads. We're starting to pay the bill. And our legislature still hasn't got the message that we need to figure out how to have more money to put into our roads. And as long as we continue to wait for the federal and the state government to try and come in and give us money, we're going to have these kind of roads. And it's going to get worse. And the longer we delay, the longer we wait to be able to start putting more money into our roads, the more we're going to have these types of roads.
Absolutely.
And it could be that we, the public, are going to have to come forward and say, look, we in Grand Traverse County desire to have a better road system, so therefore, we are going to have to look at how do we tax ourselves to be able to get us to that point. And it's really getting down to critical mass right now.
Well, our funding mechanism hasn't changed since '97, and anybody in the private sector would be out of business. They could not live on those dollars, and it's just not possible. And your point, Herb, is absolutely right on base. If it appears that we're going to have to take care of our own, because we're just not getting that help.
Yeah,
The reason I got up here is just exactly what Herb just said is, what you're seeing is the long-term effects of not investing in our infrastructure. And anybody that goes to half the meetings that I go to will hear me talk about, the need for investing in our infrastructure. And the fact is, we're encouraged, we're hopeful. There is going to be a change in the way the state funds our road system and funds local road commissions. But I really think at the end of the day, again, you know, we live in a fantastic place, but I don't see a lot of people coming up from Lansing to help us out. We're beyond that point. Even if we doubled our MTF funds, it would take us years to catch up. So really, we're here on our own, and so I like the fact that you mentioned a possible
I'm
new
just saying
bond.
that's what we did previously, that's all I just mentioned that.
And honestly, you know, I've talked to a few people in the county. I would really like to come and do a presentation to the county board probably in June, because I'd really like you guys to consider a new bond, and I'm thinking more in terms of $6 million, and then we'll have to figure out what the details
As long
are.
as it's split.
Yeah.
Well,
and-
it was a win-win for everybody in the county.
Trouble is, when you're
It-
spending
it's-
money on your bond,
Right.
you don't have money to patch and do repair roads.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, you know, in conjunction with that, I keep also bringing up the idea of a winter maintenance millage. This is a fantastic example of, you know, we budget 25% of our annual budget to push snow. And you know, we all see it during the winter months, but come pothole season, that's what you see are potholes. We're not investing in our infrastructure, we're investing in salt, sand, and plowing snow. And so this year, we've spent over $3 million plowing snow. And we're not quite done, you know, so.
All right, Commissioner Maxbauer.
Well, I just wanted to mention, I feel the need to mention this whenever I possibly can. I live on West 8th Street. Pretty much everybody knows I live on the corner of 8th and Oak. And outside on 8th Street, West 8th Street, is a brick street. And I have to tell you, that thing has been there since the day I was born.
Right.
60 years ago. The only place you'll find potholes on West 8th Street, really, is where they've gone over it with asphalt, over the brick. And as the asphalt wears away, there's the brick.
Right.
Still, and you can't, it's not a flat surface, it's a little, you know, it's like traffic calming. It works.
That's a good term.
But I wanted to mention, Germany is starting to redo their roads with brick. There's a company in Denmark that has a machine that automatically puts this brick down. And in, you know, a country like Germany, which has snow in winter, I mean, it seems to be working. I don't know what the cost is, but I would think over the long haul, it might work in some areas.
Sure.
There was a
There's pros and
demonstration
cons.
project on doing a rubberized asphalt road in Bay City or Saginaw, if I remember correctly, and where they take the tires and crush them all up, put them into an asphalt. The roads they last longer, they're quieter, and they're easier to maintain. They do cost more to be able to do that. So every time you do that, it's all cost. And, you know, we don't have a road problem, we have a money problem.
Commissioner Wheelock.
You know, a couple just little points as long as we're talking about roads. I believe that Sunday, they're going to close M37 at Sherman Hill.
Yep.
Down here.
See them moving equipment that way. I
So
knew it was
that's,
coming
you know,
close.
that, I believe Sunday that road closes,
Is it
and it's going to
Sunday?
be closed for probably
All
3
summer.
months.
Yeah.
You know, so that's going to change some traffic patterns in our particularly South County area. But more importantly, I do want to commend the Road Commission for what they've done with keeping the snow off the roads this
Yep.
winter. You know, we've had a lot of snow. It hasn't all come at one time, which makes it a little bit easier. But with the split shifts and things, we've done a much better job of having the roads available for people to go to drive on in the mornings and coming to and from work.
Thank you.
And I do
We
appreciate
appreciate
that.
that.
And, you know, I think we forget to tell them when they do a good job once in a while. We bitch when they take down the mailbox or they put snow in the driveway after I got done plowing it. But, you know, we do need to give them credit when they really have done a very good job this winter. And I think most of the community appreciates that.
Well, we've got some dedicated drivers, and personally, I would not want the job that they do. That is a very nerve-wracking job, and they do it very well, very well.
But I think the staggered shifts made a huge difference, and that decision came from the top.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight.
We'll be back in a couple months with a
All right.
proposal.
All right. Any other public
See the
comment?
look of joy on Dave's face.
Yeah, we got to fill our $1 million hole first. Any other public comment? All right, we'll close public comment. Commissioner reports. Any?
I wasn't at Commission on Aging. I missed it.
It was a real short meeting. Nothing really was done there.
Probably because I wasn't there.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, shush.
Anybody else? All right, notices and announcements.
I noticed it's after 9 o'clock.
All right. No notices, announcements. We don't have a closed session, so we need a motion to.
I would like to say that we should wish Larry a happy birthday.
Would you like us to sing? We could clear the room fast.
Absolutely not. I'd just like to recognize that
His
it
new
is
name is Elder Larry.
Elder Larry.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Is there a second?
You don't want to spend any more time with me. I don't understand
Before
that.
this thing gets out of control.
All in favor?
Any more out of control?
We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Before this group's getting any more out of control.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, no kidding.
Better than 10 or 11.
That was a quickie.
Yeah, well.